Black Ops 3 actually ruined COD Zombies is something that you will never hear me personally saying and truthfully believing. However, there's a fascinating video on it that somebody made, not necessarily over Black Ops 3 as a whole, but over Shadows of Evil. This is the channel right here, Evan F1997. Check him out. I'll link his stuff down below. It is his video. Gotta give him credit for it. We're gonna check it out. We're gonna react to it today. It's a longer one. It's 26 minutes and 45 seconds long. I did already watch the first 7 minutes of it. I was like, dang, this is a really good video, and I still have a lot I haven't even watched, so I want to react to it with you guys. I'll give my thoughts as we go. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, his video, so go check it out. It'll be linked down below. Second job. Let's get
There's no two ways about it. The launch of Shadows of Evil fundamentally changed Call of Duty Zombies forever, for both good 100%. And for bad. Innovative features, mesmerizing visuals, and a truly wild Easter egg saga helped to contribute towards one of the most memorable experiences in the history of the franchise. And yet, while all of this good was taking place, the mode and wider game as a whole were helping fuel the fires of one of the most divisive scandals in all of gaming. And to explain all of this, we need to go back to
especially
the very
considering
start.
the other games already had loot drops.
On August 28th of 2013, the Call of Duty community experienced the finale of Black Ops 2 Zombies for the very first time. Origins was a spectacle unlike anything we had ever seen in Call of Duty before, and for an array of different reasons, it's arguably the most important map in the history of the franchise.
Not crazy.
However,
Not
love
crazy
for Origins
at
has
all
steadily grown over time, and the sentiment around the map's finale was
if you think
far
any
from
map
overwhelmingly
besides
positive at the time.
Origins
Polarizing finale really posed more questions than answers at the time, seemingly presenting the entire Zombies franchise with the cliche ending of being one big dream. And it's also worth noting that it was the very first ending cutscene we would ever see in Zombies, and therefore some were incorrectly led to believe that this signaled the end of Zombies as we knew it. The power of hindsight shows us that we really couldn't have been more wrong, but the community would have to wait for over 2 anxious years to discover what Treyarch had been cooking up for the future. Reality shows us that Treyarch would propel Zombies to glorious heights in Black Ops 3 with incredible innovation and breathtaking design, but that would all have to start in one place, with the map that truly changed Call of Duty Zombies forever: Shadows of Evil. As with any new game launch, first impressions are huge, and this was no different. The developers did not play it safe when it came to this new release, with fundamental overhauls taking place throughout almost every core feature of the mode. Firstly, players would notice the apparent absence of both the Primus and Ultimus crew, with a new group of crooks taking the main stage for Shadows of Evil inside of a fictional 1940s inspired Lovecraftian land called Morgue City. In my Origins video, I mentioned how opening the door to the crazy place in Origins probably had the more metaphorical impact of opening up Zombies in general to a brighter and more vibrant color palette, and this would be seen as clear as day upon the release of Shadows. The neon signs, the bright lights, the jazzy music, and a high contrast surrounding created an atmosphere completely new to Zombies. This wasn't just the same old feeling of a new map.
Is that fair to say, though? Completely new feel to Zombies? I don't think it did. I mean, Origins had the feel, right? It was a snowy map. You got the vibe. Like, they set the tone. I get what he's saying. He said, like, it's the dark and eerie feeling. Is that what he said, right?
New to Zombies. This wasn't just the same old feeling of a new map. It was the feeling of a completely new and revamped visual experience.
Yeah.
Possibly.
All right, well, yeah, I mean, I don't hate that take, but I don't know. Did this completely change it? I guess that's not crazy to say. I guess so. Because, I mean, Origins, it enhanced it and it made you feel involved in it, right? But I guess
thanks to the heavily modified IW engine that the game was now developed on. The innovation extended well past just the aesthetics, however. Monumental changes to the movement and other gameplay elements contributed to the shiny new feel in Black Ops 3. Dolphin diving was no more, and instead switched out for sliding and even wall running mechanics at times. As well as the huge change of increasing the player's health by 50%, now allowing 3 swipes to be taken before a down, as opposed to the 2 taken before, really helping to stress the 3 in Black Ops 3. These changes were just a few in a whole suite of changes that helped to switch the gameplay direction of zombies in Black Ops 3, creating a faster pace, more chaotic environment for the player, and balancing this via increasing their health and strength of the arsenal available to them. This idea was reinforced with the introduction of weapon kits to personally mod their weapons to change their optics, handling capabilities, and even fire rates at times,
we had
as
in
well
zombies,
as the
you could
introduction of
change your
arguably
classes
the greatest perk
in terms of
ever
Treyarch.
added to zombies, Widow's Wine. Whereas Juggernaut had granted players the ability to take more hits from zombies at the cost of 4,000 points. Widow's Wine would prevent the player from getting hit to begin with by creating an explosive spiderweb between the player and the zombie. This addition, in combination with the previously mentioned health buffs, movement buffs, and weapon kits, placed the player in just about the most overpowered position they'd ever been in the history of zombies. And for the most part, this was received very well by the player base. However, that was all about to change with the introduction of some small, sugary spheres, gobblegums. Gobblegums allowed players to further enhance their power fantasy via the introduction of positive gameplay effect modifiers that meant players could spawn in power-ups, grant themselves instant or all perks, and overall just...
Before we listen to the rest he has to say about gobblegums, this is where I want to step in, okay? Listen, gobblegums were introduced in BO3, obviously. But the way they were introduced in BO3, I think it worked so good. It worked in so smooth, and it actually fit the gameplay BO3 was designed for. Like, I think he says it here in a moment, because I already made it this far, yeah. So 3 more minutes I already seen. He mentions that the maps were made with the intention of the gobblegums being used. And so you could see that they thought about that when they made the Black Ops 3 maps, the current day maps with gobblegums. They don't have that in mind,
survivability or offensive capabilities. Gobblegums could be crafted with liquid divinium. However, the gobblegums were crafted at random with a slot machine-like animation, meaning players couldn't necessarily focus on getting the ones they really wanted. While liquid divinium was earnable just by playing, it could also be purchased for real money. Gobblegums were pay to win. There's no denying that. But the concept of pay to
win gobblegums, agreed. I personally never did. 1, because I was a little kid, I didn't have the money to spend on it. But 2, oh my gosh, I would go run, get to round 7 in the spawn room with the pistol. You'd be using the gobblegums, then you reset your game. Oh, I knew all the tips and tricks. I was on that.
New, nor was it entirely alien to players back in 2015. The discussion behind pay-to-win features is a long and complicated one, but the controversy behind gobblegums was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. You see, it was not just a case of entering your dad's credit card info, paying $10, and receiving the gobblegum of your dreams, and it was instead designed in a much more predatory way.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but at the same time,
players would have to purchase liquid divinium, then spin what was essentially a zombified slot machine in order to receive 3 random gobblegums. With the addition of rarity levels such as Mega, Rare Mega, and Ultra Rare Mega to reduce the probability of players getting the super powerful gobblegum they were really after. While gobblegums were not explicitly required to play zombies, it was clear the map had been designed with the capabilities of gobblegums in mind, and the difficulty was tuned as such that a player would feel the need to use them. Their inclusion had created a huge divide amongst the community.
Now, when I playing Black Ops 6 right now, or the BO7 beta, or BO7 in a couple weeks when it comes out, I don't feel the need to use my gobblegum. I get 3 of them off the rip, and I don't even think about using it. It's like they're not even there.
As things were no longer a level playing field, reaching round 100 or completing an Easter egg was a whole lot easier if you had infinite supply of perkaholics and power-ups to help you along the way. And this was inevitably something only those willing to splash the cash would even have access to. And those those who had more limited supply would be forced to quit the game right before the end to activate a glitch that would often allow them to save the gobblegums they had used. This predatory system only helped to further fuel the already blistering fires of pay-to-win and gambling features in games.
Part of me thinks that it's going to be completely fine. I trust that Treyarch will implement it in such a way that it doesn't really get in the way of things. But another part of me is a little worried. It just feels a little weird that this is the route that Activision and Treyarch are going down when, in-game, it's so unbelievably slow to unlock liquid divinium and it's completely arbitrary, that speed.
Loot boxes and essentially the
change
underage
that
gambling
later,
that came
believe.
with it was
Not by a
rife in
ton.
this
I think
era
they
of
did.
gaming.
Maybe I'm
CSGO skin
talking on my
gambling,
butt right
and
now.
later
Maybe they
Star
didn't.
Wars Battlefront
But
being
yeah, it
notable
was easy.
examples
You
of
just did
really
the
poor
spawn
yet
grind,
somewhat accepted
super easy to get
practices in the video game
or
industry.
flip a video
What
and then
really
just
makes the
reset.
gobblegum implementation of these features worse, however, is the fact that Black Ops 3 was not COD's first rodeo with pay-to-win or loot box mechanics. Sledgehammer Games had already experienced significant backlash with supply drops and stronger weapon variants available from
other
them
supply
in
drops, I thought
2014's
was
COD Advanced
Black Ops 3
Warfare.
again.
And one of
the
the big
multiplayer where
selling
they did
points
it
for
with the
Black Ops
blackjack
3
dealer,
in
'cause it was
many
still random.
ways had been
I
the
still liked it.
reversal of disliked Advanced Warfare features, such as returning to a more boots on the ground feel and an implied removal of heavy pay-to-win elements. While Treyarch did scale back a little bit for the launch of Black Ops 3, the nature of these features is always that they scale up quickly throughout a game's life cycle, and it would be no different this time around. But that's a conversation to dive into when we cover maps that succeed today's main topic. And now you can use the Easter egg tool of code Evan at checkout on Cheeky Soap for this limited team map, Afterlife Mob of the Dead, which makes complete sense when you realize it was developed by the same team. The Afterlife mode that drastically switched up power and unlock mechanics in Mob of the Dead would be expanded on by the dev team here to create the Beast mode. This limited use mode function pretty much identical to Afterlife, but also allow players to grapple and melee to interact with the map further. While there was no craftable plane on Shadows, the dev team did expand further on player transport, innovating the gondola scene on Mob of the Dead to a longer train system that was a really cool feature until you got stuck in your train car with one of these losers. This three-headed freak was part of a
Margwa. I have to chime in real quick. I want to say, going into BO7, right? We look at these past transportation systems, right? The plane on Mob, you have the gondola in BO3, and all the other things, the launch pads and Horizon Junk, all the things you know and love, all the different transportations. Now we have a car we can actually drive around. People, and myself included, just a little bit, I'm not completely hating on it, but I do have a little tweaks I would make if I was the one making it as well with the old Tessie and BO7. It's a different take on the transportation. Is it that crazy? Maybe because you can freely use it instead of just being it set in the map like the launch pads on DE or Ascension, for example. I don't think it'll be bad at all. I think it'll be just fine.
Trio of new enemies that were added to zombies with Shadows.
Imagine this
mini boss added increased difficulty to the map and struck fear into the hearts of those who were not properly prepared. Although, if you sent some cash Activision's way and prayed to RNGesus, you could acquire the Pop Shock's gobblegum, which could essentially insta-kill these Margwas. I've really only touched on the biggest addition so far, but the real meat and potatoes, the flagship feature of this map, was its main quest Easter egg, as its inclusion is arguably the largest factor towards Shadows being such a fundamentally game-changing map, and the story of how it was discovered for the first time is equally as fascinating. We often talk about controversy when it comes to the discovery of world's first Easter eggs, and while at first it appeared Shadows of Evil had minimal controversy in comparison to other maps that were outright cheated, it is important to mention that a lot of features of the map, including significant portions of the Easter egg setup, were discovered prior to its official release on November 6th of 2015. As well as the fact that much of the Easter egg would be donated to streamers. Unlike lots of games nowadays, Black Ops 3 did not require an online connection to play, and therefore the game did not depend.
Again, something I don't understand in Black Ops 6 and moving forward. Why can we not play offline?
Depend on servers being live. Those who had early disc copies of the game could play the game's offline features freely prior to the launch, and the earliest proof I could find of this was an Ollie video on October 22nd of 2015, detailing that people had the game early and he had seen gameplay, and even Noah J letting people know during a live stream that he was able to play the game early.
Holy crap. It is finally here. The launch of Black Ops 3. The embargo has just lifted, and I can officially
I wonder
tell
if
you
he
guys,
got in trouble
I have
for
been playing
releasing
this
it early.
game since Friday of last week. I did some crazy mumbo jumbo muju going
Unless he waited
left,
to release
right,
it.
through some hoops, and I got the game from Dubai. I think the original part of the game came from.
Lots of previously mentioned features of the map were exposed in these early leaks, as well as arguably one of, if not the greatest wonder weapon in Call of Duty history, the Apothecon Servant. Not only is its design still breathtaking almost 10 years later, but its insane power still wows players the way it did back in 2015. The black hole that is shot out of it did infinite damage to base zombies.
Talk about a good wonder weapon right there, and specifically designed for the map. It's in the lore of the map. I mean, dude, they just don't be doing it
much like
that
myself,
no more.
It could suck dozens of zombies at once. The arrival of the Apothecon Servant also marked the arrival of one of the most confusing yet fascinating sagas that featured a massive cover-up effort by Treyarch, but more on that later. Much of the Easter egg setup was discovered before the map's official release date, with the first being the unlocking of the Pack-a-Punch machine. Shadows of Evil continued where Origins left off, requiring multiple ritual completions. Players noticed that they could use the Beast mode to uncover 4 ritual items that had direct correlations to each of the characters: a championship belt, a fountain pen, a wig, and a detective's badge. It then made sense for players to bring each of these items to the relevant character location around the map. To start the ritual, however, players would need to pick up what would become the most important and historic quest item in the history of the Zombies franchise, the Summoning Key. The nonchalant placement of the Summoning Key in Spawn is almost framed as this easily disregardable quest item, similar to the shovel in Origins. Yet, those who have followed Black Ops 3's story closely realize that it really could not be more of the opposite. Starting the summoning ritual would literally summon zombie wizards named Keepers, and their inclusion further builds the idea of opening the crazy place in Origins really opens zombies up to a more fantasy setting. Once a ritual had been completed, players were granted with worm, and upon picking up the worm, it would sit in their inventory along with a mysterious looking symbol. Players realized that these same symbols could be seen painted on the wall in the underground portion of the city too, and therefore once they had completed
dude, talk about a crazy map, man. I would just be playing the map so casually when I go play it. I'd be forgetting to introduce all these new things.
For rituals, they took the worms to the wall, only for the wall to reveal a secret ancient room with 4 pedestals to place the worms. And this is what happened once players placed all the worms for the first time.
It was intense. You hear the music? I know y'all hear it. They'd be going, you'd be fighting for your life.
While nowadays we have become accustomed to big spectacles and zombies, it's important not to forget how impressive and refreshing it was back in 2015.
It was crazy.
The shock value of seeing this ancient room, combined with the dramatic final ritual music, was super innovative almost 10 years ago, and is still impressive to me now. The completed ritual revealed a very unique Half-Life-like portal that was the Pack-a-Punch machine. And while Origins was technically the first map to have a custom Pack-a-Punch machine, the creepy tentacle handing you your weapon was really a nice atmosphere-enhancing touch by Treyarch. Although Pack-a-Punch is technically the first step of the Easter egg.
Yes, I know the lore with the Pack-a-Punch and the story and how it follows everywhere. I'm aware.
Plenty of teams unlock Pack-a-Punch with no intention of completing the Easter egg. However, the second Easter egg step to be discovered before the map's launch was a little different. When looking at the transit maps for the trains, players noticed question marks at 3 locations along the route. And while these locations could not be stopped at, when passed by, players would notice glowing red symbols. Although it was unclear what to do with them until some keen-eyed players would notice that the beast mode would reveal them on the opposite wall to the Pack-a-Punch symbols in the subway. And zapping the 3 correct symbols would reveal 4 Apothecon eggs. These eggs could be taken to weird tentacle octopus statue things around the map and charged up like a soul box. Soul box steps were not new or unique to zombies, but the reward that this soul box step would grant certainly was unlike anything we had seen in zombies previously. The Apothecon sword. Not only was this sword an inherently...
Okay, before he dives too deep into the swords, I do want to say, he made a good point. The eggs and putting them at the statues, very similar to soul boxes. In fact, you want to call it the same thing? Sure. All right. And if you're someone who, let's say, loves modern zombies, right? You'll probably be like, let's say you're someone who hates it. Like, oh, they're just reusing assets. See, they reused them all back in the day. I mean, I guess so, but they are so different. The soul box and the sword, and they were made for the map specifically, and it fits so good, and it feels like it should actually be there, and it is not a literal copy and paste like they do now. That's what made it special. So we'll clarify that before we go
unique
on.
Weapon with its light attack and heavy
so
attack.
it is still very similar, but it's different enough and unique enough and made to fit the map specifically.
The way it was equipped was new to the franchise too. The sword did not take up your conventional weapon slots and instead found its home on your HUD under the Specialist Weapon category. Specialists were a new addition and unique selling point of Black Ops 3's multiplayer at the time, with each specialist having a chargeable ultimate and super ability they could deploy when needed. This found its way over to zombies, and players seemed very receptive to the idea, especially when the sword was as good as this. After this, one final step would also be discovered before the map officially launched. And while it might seem as if the majority of this Easter egg was discovered prior to the map's launch, it wouldn't officially be completed until November 12th, 6 days after the launch.
That's actually
all due to
crazy.
some community confusion we will discuss later. Upgrading the sword was a lot easier for players to figure out, however, as Treyarch did a good job of making it pretty self-explanatory. When players returned to their character's respective ritual site, they now noticed a ghostly figure hovering above it, whom they could interact with to collect the Arch Ovum, in which they would use to trigger much more difficult rituals at different locations. These rituals spawned multiple Margwas and were somewhat reminiscent of the Unleash the Horde step with Panzers and Origins, in which a horde of Panzers would fly out of a hole and come in to ruin your day. Once the Margwa rituals had been completed, players were granted with upgraded swords, which was an incredible wonder weapon in and of itself.
I knew they were very
similar, the upgraded sword allowed players to summon a little sword follower that interestingly shared its AI with the Dragonfly Scorestreak in multiplayer. The sword follower would target zombies and protect the player, which, when combined with the Civil Protector and the Apothecant Servant's black holes, meant that players didn't really have to put much effort into surviving. This step really wasn't as hard as it sounds with its Margwa rituals, and I'd argue the Panzer step was much more difficult, purely down to the fact that Black Ops 3 players were much more overpowered and better prepared to deal with a mini-boss that probably wasn't as strong as Panzer's to begin with. However, the ease of this Easter egg so far was soon to be flipped on its head. There is some misinformation out there about the time span in which this next step was solved, with some saying it took a few hours and others saying it took a few days. The reality is that a Noah J viewer named Unreal Pancake found it almost instantly and let Noah know.
Real facts, Noah doesn't know. You can upgrade Little Arnie, the Unicorn, and Nero's Landing starts the Easter egg once you upgrade the sword. The katana is real. Does this guy have some intel that I don't have?
Funny enough, in my own Shadows of Evil playthrough for the first time, my teammate found this book by accident, and we didn't even know he found it until my chat said he did. Activating a book in Nero's office on the shelf spawned a totem in the subway station, and this totem was easily my personal favorite step of the entire Easter egg. In the stream where Pancake discovered the book, Noah spent the rest of that stream trying to figure out what to do with the flag, but couldn't do it. By this point, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 had officially reached its launch, and you may think this meant the Easter egg discovery process would be expedited, but it would in fact be the opposite, and the community would soon hit a wall. It's also important to mention at this point that those who had been playing the game on early copies noticed a bit of a change once the game had released to the public. It later transpired that Treyarch had intentionally made the game harder pre-release by increasing door prices, zombie movement speed, and zombie swipe speed, although it's not entirely clear whether this was done to deter those playing early or whether it was a last-minute game tuning. The real solution to the totem problem was to plant the flag around the map in specific spots and then defend it as a team. This defense step was far from your average soul box or lockdown step. It was a genuinely really tough challenge and remains that way even by today's standards. Infinite spawns of meatballs as well as waves of zombies and parasites would tunnel vision down towards the flag in an effort to destroy it. And if that wasn't enough, the Shadow Man would also periodically spawn in with a charged attack you would have to interrupt too. While this step was difficult and frustrating at times, the chaos it provided and the hype once completed was exactly what zombies needed. And without Treyarch's significant buffing of the player in Black Ops 3, it's unlikely that this step would have been able to exist. The increased defensive capabilities like bonus health, Widow's Wine, AI defenses such as the Sword and Civil Protector were all vital to making sure that teams could progress past this step. It's also important to recognize that this was the first game to introduce the feature of double pack-a-punch upgrades like Thunderwall, Fireworks, Blast Furnace, Turn, and Deadwire, with one of these equipped to your weapon also being incredibly helpful for dealing with the chaos. The Apothicon Servant's sucking capability really made it an MVP for defending the flag, and those who managed to upgrade it had an even better time. And yes, you heard that right, the Apothicon Servant could be upgraded in Shadows of Evil. While it could not be directly upgraded in the Pack-a-Punch machine, some quick sleight of hand allowed players to swap weapons just before interacting, forcing the Pack-a-Punch machine's tentacle to take your weapon. Now, this glitch was not just a visual one. Your weapon would actually become upgraded for the rest of the game, with significantly increased ammo reserves and the black hole part of the weapon switching from purple to a fiercer looking red. While players loved this upgrade, especially for
because it wasn't actually part of the game, as he said. It's just like, so did they I mean, they knew it was in the game. I mean, it's still in the game right now.
The flag step or high rounds, Treyarch were less than impressed with players doing it and content creators posting about it. Activision began striking down videos on YouTube of those doing the upgrade or educating others about the upgrade. With Zombies legend Liam Winter letting me know Activision had actually messaged him at the time asking him to remove the video. What was confusing about the saga was that Activision do not normally take such a fierce stance on a simple glitch, and it's weird to me that they didn't just patch it and move on like we've seen hundreds of other occasions with glitches across gaming. The behavior of Activision, combined with the fact that the gun would actually become upgraded, led many to believe that there was a legitimate and secret way to unlock the upgraded variant that was yet to be discovered, and many members of the community would spend weeks and months trying to crack this apparent puzzle. To those who are Destiny fans or played heavily in Forsaken, many Zombies players saw this Apothicon Servant situation somewhat like the 15th Wish saga in Destiny. It was certainly confusing why Activision took this stance at the time, but around 6 months later became both clearer and more mind-boggling at the same time.
Is the Shadows of Evil Wonder Weapon upgradable?
Okay, let me be definite and cryptic at the same time.
As expected.
Yeah.
Classic David.
It is not possible to upgrade the Apothicon Servant in Shadows of Evil.
Jason Blundell simultaneously both broke hearts and sparked curiosity during that interview.
Before he explains the rest of this, I loved how they used the head guy of Zombies, of the entire storyline we know and love today, would sit down with creators and answer their questions. And yeah, they give some BS answers here and there. They would give, the PR answer, but most of the time they gave fun answers. It was good insight watching those videos. Now you don't do that. They're doing their dev talks. They actually are releasing another one tomorrow. I saw it. I don't know if it's multiplayer Zombies. I'll cover it. Whatever it is. Hopefully it's a little bit of both. That'd be awesome.
With Noah J, and 5 more months later, things finally made sense with the release of Revelations. The Apothicon Servant was officially and legitimately upgradable through an Easter egg on Revelations. And with Revelations being the spectacle finale to Black Ops 3 Zombies, it began to make sense why Activision had wanted to hide the upgrade in Shadows of Evil and save it for the grand reveal in Revelations. But I'll leave this to you to discuss further in the comments. After everyone had played the Capture the Flag step, a boss fight with the creepy Shadow Man awaited. While the fight isn't really incredibly interesting or difficult by today's standards, it's important to note that this is the first real boss fight in Zombies history, and much like of Origins, almost functioned like an introductory testing ground for Treyarch, with bigger boss fight endings clearly planned on the horizon. That's not to say that this fight was a complete walkover, however, with the fight locking you in and forcing you to fight hordes and evade Margwas, with the ultimate challenge of trying to avoid falling from the wall run section. Many
like, what would it be? 12-year-old me? Oh my gosh, I struggled so hard with the
the
Warrens
Shadow Man for this time
like a couple
also
times.
found
Or
themselves
you just
stuck
run into your
and
teammates
confused on
randomly.
how to progress the fight, understandably being ignorant to the fact that the Shadow
course,
Man
I had
had to be
schmoovement,
trapped
though.
once
Y'all
he
know I
was
got some
hovering over the
schmoovement
ritual
MP.
table. Although the
So that was fun.
capturing that took place during the 3 original rituals was perhaps a reference to this. The Shadow Man to me is a direct reference to the G-Man, a messenger for beings beyond our understanding. Capturing the Shadow Man, however, did not end the Easter egg, and I always enjoy when a puzzle continues at the point where the conventional end is expected. This final step is eventually where the community would hit a big
That's a good point.
wall, with seemingly no one
it
having
going.
any leads on how to complete the Easter egg.
Least
However,
expected.
after a few days, the community did come to the conclusion that whatever the next
Don't
step
wanna bother
was,
with
it
two
would
more
only
idiots.
be triggered with a full squad
fine.
of 4 players. A full team of 4, however, did make getting to this point more difficult, with rituals lasting
Literally
longer,
why I've
more
never done
zombies
it.
spawning,
Is
and
that I
the
don't have people
already
to play with.
challenging flag step requiring the flag to be
Only
charged
ever tried
even
it once, I
longer.
believe.
It would take almost
And I
an
did it on my own before I
entire
realized you
week
couldn't do it
after
with
launch for the
everybody.
final step to be cracked. Although the reality tells us that this did not come via an ingenious light bulb moment from a community member, but instead from a data miner. Admiral
Of course.
Baru would have the requirements of the final step donated to him, seemingly the same way Noah had the narrow step gifted to him. A comment from the data miners themselves on Baru's world's first completion video outlines how the game's files hinted towards electrifying train rails, and with 3 train stations in the game and a central point of interest in the middle, Admiral Baru's team put 2 and 2 together to complete the Easter egg and give us the first look at what was an incredibly interesting cutscene.
Very, very interesting.
Okay.
And it set us up for
Is that the
Hey,
that's the that's
just
the Easter
peak
egg then?
the whole time
Holy
with
shit!
the storyline.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
What?
I really don't
What?
know.
Yeah, this look at the genuine shock on his face when Richtofen comes in. This is exactly how I felt when I saw this for the first time. I don't remember if it was on Twitter, YouTube, what. I just remember specifically it was Raffle Waffles. Saw his video. Richtofen and Shadow. I was shook. I was so shook. Watch his face.
Holy shit!
I'm so sorry.
What?
I really don't
What?
know.
What?
I have a
Hello?
universe to set right.
I
If
was
told
so
you, well,
confused. So good.
We did it!
So
It's
good.
a real shame that after a week of discovery, Shadows
How
of
much we
Evil
got
would
left?
not be solved legitimately. And unfortunately,
Just a
this has
couple
been
seconds,
a
okay.
theme
I'll
of
wait-
Black
I'll
Ops
wait to give
Zombies
my,
in the past
opinions.
and to be expected in the future. Despite this ending, unbeknownst to the community, the launch of Black Ops 3 and Shadows of Evil had just marked the change in zombies forever. The chaos and spectacle of the map set a precedent for what would be seen in a future map release, and the buffs that Treyarch had added to the player's arsenal would serve as justification to create some of the most ludicrous Easter eggs and boss fights the zombie mode would ever see. And while
Agreed.
gaming communities can
Agreed.
often be skeptical of it, the innovations in Shadows of Evil, pay-to-win gobblegums included, prove that change can really be a great thing.
Great. W video. Wow, wow, wow. Again, shout out him. I'll have his stuff down below. Evan F 1997. I will have it all down below. What a video. And what I wanted to say is when Richtofen comes in, he steals that key. What you set up for? I don't remember exactly how long it was from launch of Shadows to the last map in Rev, how long it was, if it was a year, just over a year. Because I know that was back when DLC packs were still in. A couple of y'all might not even know that. I'm 19. I mean, obviously, I know that. I was still playing back then, had to buy the DLC packs. But if you just got into COD and past, let's just say 6 years, DLCs haven't been a thing. They haven't been a thing for even longer than that. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Just set us up for the success of the storyline for that long. We got to see those characters and the different stories on each map, and they all tied in, and they even tied it in with the previous games. I mean, dude, well freaking done, man. There's so many things I could say. W freaking video, man. That's all I got for this one. Great video. Again, linking down below. Great video by this guy. Appreciate you, Evan. Catch y'all on the next one. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Should have a dev talk tomorrow to react to. Catch y'all on the next one. I love y'all. Hope you have a good days. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.